but that John McCain is wrong. Hagee declined to address speculation about serving in an Obama cabinet, but did say, quote, "I can't get into the psychoanalysis of it, but I believe that John is smarter than some of the things he is saying." Perhaps, but is he smarter than things that have been said by the influential pastor whose endorsement he sought and refuses to renounce to this day? McCain has already distanced himself slightly from Pastor John Hagee's label for the Catholic Church, quote, "the great whore." Now an online journalist has found audio from a Christian website of a sermon dated 2006 in which Hagee says that the Bible's book of Jeremiah quotes God talking about sending Hitler to force the Jews to Israel.
"Behold, I will send for many fishers, and after will I send for many hunters, and they, the hunters, shall hunt them," that will be the Jews, "from every mountain and from every hill and from out of the holes of the rocks." If that doesn't describe what Hitler did in the Holocaust, you can't see that. And that will be offensive to some people. Well, dear heart, be offended.
Let's turn now to the Washington correspondent for the New Yorker magazine, Ryan Lizza. Thanks for your time tonight, sir.
Hey, Keith, thanks for having me.
We'll get to Hagee, but first to Hagee. These comments are actually not that shocking if you are familiar with the God causes everything because we haven't persecuted this or that group and the we'll need Israel during the apocalypse thinking of some of these guys, if thinking is the right word for it. But does that not imply that McCain essentially sought out Hagee not without knowing this, but despite knowing that Pastor Hagee and his people see Israel and Jewish people as sort of biblical collateral damage?
Well, I don't know if McCain knew about these comments or not, but Hagee's remark there that some people will be offended by these comments is the understatement of the year, certainly. Look, arguably, McCain seeking out an endorsement from Hagee is worse in some ways than Obama's relationship with Wright. I mean, Wright was a guy who was the pastor of the church that Obama belonged to. McCain actually sought this guy's endorsement, and up until this point, hasn't repudiated him. Now, look, what we've just learned about Hagee and what he said is so beyond the pale that it seems inconceivable to me that McCain can continue to have any further relationship with this guy and continue to sort of have his active endorsement in any way. I'd be shocked if he didn't denounce him after this.
Yeah, and yet when the stuff about Neww Orleans took place, the revelations about his comments that Katrina was a direct message from God to punish Neww Orleans for staging or planning to stage a gay pride parade, what he backed off from, he backed off in such a way that he left literally using the phrase, I'm repudiating every anti-everything thing that he had said. It made no sense whatsoever. He still did not renounce the endorsement. Why is there an assumption that he's going to act on this?
Right.
About the new pastor problems plaguing another presidential hopeful, this time John McCain, facing questions about his ties to a preacher who has made controversial, fiercely anti-Islamic comments. Brian Ross is here with us right now. Brian.
Good morning, Diane. In dealing with what he calls the central threat of our time, Senator McCain says the U.S. has failed to win the hearts and minds of the Islamic world. But if that is McCain's plan, if elected, he seems to have already badly complicated it by recruiting the support of an evangelical minister, now known in the Arab world as a hate monger. It was at a critical moment in his campaign, trying to win support from the Christian right, that John McCain sought and received a big endorsement in the evangelical world.
And I'm very honored today to have one of the truly great leaders in America, a moral compass, a spiritual guide, Pastor Rob Parsley, who is here. And thank you for your leadership and your guidance. I'm very grateful you're here, sir.
Campaign aides later positioned Parsley right behind McCain for photographers, apparently unconcerned about what Parsley stands for. As the senior pastor of the World Harvest Church in Columbus, Ohio, Parsley has made no secret of his feelings that Islam is the enemy.
Islam is an anti-Christ religion that intends through violence to conquer the world.
In sermons sold on DVD since 2005 and in a book, Silent No More, Parsley has warned about Islam.
America was founded in part with the intention of seeing this false religion destroyed. And I believe September 11, 2001 was a generational call to arms that we can no longer ignore.
Parsley's words and his connection to McCain are now showing up on Arab websites and newspapers. The headline here, McCain's spiritual advisor calls for the destruction of Islam. A huge handicap for McCain, according to a former CIA intelligence officer.
The handicap is that it's already assumed that the Muslims are not going to get a fair shake from a McCain administration.
McCain has done nothing to reject Parsley's endorsement, even though his comments seem in stark contrast.
Our goal must be to win the hearts and minds of the vast majority of moderate Muslims who do not want their future controlled by a minority of violent extremists.
I will counter respectfully that what some call extremists are instead mainstream Muslim believers who are drawing from the well at the very heart of Islam.
We must remember that our freedoms are not only defended by our diplomacy and military power, but very importantly, by the decency and respect with which we treat one another.
I will rail against the idea that the God of Christianity and the God of Islam are the same being. I will sound the alarm about the pernicious agendas of the enemies of my country and the cross of my Christ, and I will proclaim the truth at every opportunity.
In a statement, a McCain spokesman said the senator obviously strongly rejects such statements. But the spokesman would not answer the question of whether the senator or the campaign knew of Parsley's widely publicized views before seeking his endorsement, or before Senator McCain called Parsley one of the truly great leaders in America, a moral compass, a spiritual guide.
Yes, we heard it there on stage. Spiritual guide and leader. Chief Investigative Correspondent Brian Ross. Thank you, Brian.